A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Foodie Go-Go. And let's just be clear here. This is, in fact, well, it's not really the last episode that I will have made, but as I've talked about in the last episode last month, I have in fact decided that I would eventually end the series for good. Because right now, this is episode number 37. And that's quite a long time that I've basically been doing. 37 whole months have passed by since the very start of this whole series. And just to know the fact that I've basically had a lot of time to be able to put this stuff together, albeit with a ton of pre-recorded material here, I'm just more or less in anticipation of the fact that years from now, I will still be having a lot of this kind of work being done. And getting to know the fact that, well, it's currently the recording date that I have right here is April 20th, 2022. But yet, just like with a lot of things that I've made years ahead of time, in most cases at least, I do happen to pre-record a lot of material because I just know for a fact that I will have this kind of stuff up on the channel no matter what you might think about it. But just as I've talked about before, the last episode where I talked about the Kentucky Fried Chicken sandwich, I actually felt like it was a pretty decent job. And that's very hard for me to put together considering the fact that the fast food industry, with the many chains, restaurants, and giants of the whole planet Earth, many of which just don't seem to do very well nowadays. And I myself, knowing that I can grow up and have a lot of changes mentally about my point of view on these things, I do happen to know for a fact that somehow while Kentucky Fried Chicken might flop in a lot of areas that are especially important to receiving a lot of trust and therefore a lot of money that I'd be willing to pay out to them, Kentucky Fried Chicken did at least make a good chicken sandwich. Admittingly. So, after all the years that I basically boycotted the franchise, even while all the ads of the Kentucky Fried Chicken sandwich itself were showing up repeatedly, and I've gotten lots of DMs, emails, comments, and whatever about this whole thing, asking if I could try this. So, that's how I eventually built up the courage to go out and try one for myself. But now we're going to go and take a dive into another known franchise that I've been known to simply leave out of my life. Taco Bell. And you might be wondering exactly what kind of menu item was I able to get that allowed me to simply change my mind about it. Well, these are the brand new nacho fries. And for the record, I don't know exactly how to describe any of this. These almost look like the sort of texture that you might seem to get from a good number of different restaurants. Restaurants of all sorts of things out there. Wendy's, Burger King, and I'm also sure that even Popeyes has made fries similar in quality to these. So this is the first time that I've gotten to know specifically about Taco Bell and their own share of the French fry in the fast food industry. With the many giants that are out there and French fries that exist, Wendy's by far is my most beloved pick. So amazing in detail and quality and taste and texture and seasoning level. It's not overwhelming. It's not very, well, a lot of that stuff is self-explanatory, but how do the taco fries compare to all the other giants that currently exist? Well, I'm gonna find out today by simply going for this included dipping sauce that they give out. And I've never well, that's a weird nacho cheese smell. What the heck? Oh, that's a weird smell and taste. So I'm kind of already feeling bad about this. But yet, you know what? We're going to take the plunge here. Taco Bell nacho fry, complete with nacho dip. Well, this is an interesting situation. What? How is it cold? Apparently a part of the potato itself is a bit cold. I don't really know how to explain it, but... Okay, there we go. It seems that a little bit of it happened to be cold. I don't necessarily know why. Then again, it is a common problem to have potatoes that end up cold in spots and hot in spots. So, potatoes are like the ultimate piece of, well, trickery. But you know what though? At least with the inclusion of the dipping sauce, somehow the fries do make it taste a little bit better, or at least distract you from the weird smell and taste. Also, like, look at that. That is super liquidy. It might as well just have the sort of likeness of oil, pretty much. As a matter of fact, I do feel like that's exactly how I feel about this one. So the dipping sauce is kind of out of the question, but we're just gonna try a fry itself. Well, cold again. I don't really understand it. How is it cold in spots and hot in spots? It should be even, crispy, and it actually is pretty decent in terms of, well, the seasoning and whatnot. A little bit of spice. Not the kind that would stick around for a long time, like capsaicin-wise, but kind of spices out there, not just salt and pepper, a few other things in there as well. And I'm also sure that they probably did some other things out there to try and make it as good as possible, but I don't really know. This one's a bit of a tough question for me to answer, so I'll just simply leave it at the fact that this is basically just their own version of a French fry. And I've seen a lot of iterations of French fries, tasted a lot of iterations of French fries. Chick-fil-A is fairly decent. It does have a lot of softness to it for whatever reason. And the waffle sort of look is a pretty inspiring piece, considering how they have their own sort of likeness of the actual potato that they're made from. McDonald's is a bit of a hit or miss on my end. Burger King almost follows through with them. And with Wendy's, they're pretty much a masterpiece. Practically on the perfect level for me. And a lot of you might think differently, but in terms of the Taco Bell fries, the fact they come with their own dipping sauce is one thing, but just to know the fact that they made their own French fries pretty much for the first ever time, maybe in a while. I'm not necessarily sure about their full history in terms of French fry production, but if anything, Taco Bell might have had this kind of thing before, and it might not have worked out too well. I feel like, though, that there's a very specific reason why they had to discontinue them, if that's the case. And now that they brought them back, I feel like more people might begin to enjoy them, depending on what you are and how you might feel about this kind of stuff existing. But in any case, though, I'd say these fries are decent. They don't necessarily have the likeness of a good majority of fries out there, but that's okay, because if anything, restaurants have their own sort of secrets that they do use on a daily basis to create their own quality without making it seem like they're ripping anybody off or directly copying from the source of other people of all sorts. And that's pretty easy to explain, and it's a lot better for me to simply put it together than pretty much to eat these things. I don't hate them, but I also feel like that they would need a little bit of work, especially with the temperature. How they can be hot and cold at the same time is pretty much just a confuzzling statement, but of all things, that's just pretty much how I feel about them, ultimately. And so with that in mind, if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.